when you decide you're going to plant some tomato plants, the first thing to do is find a nice sunny spot with good soil. And you'll notice that the soil in my garden, I've been developing this garden for I don't know how many years, maybe 10. Anyway, so this garden has really, you notice this soil is nice and dark. It's kind of dry, which is a good time to plant them. The temperatures aren't going to be below 50, or right up, maybe they'll hover around 50 at night, and so it's not like throwing them out when it's going to be 40 degrees. That's really rough on your tomato plants. So you want to dig a couple of holes. I'm going to plant 2 tomato plants today, and when I have this system that I've been working on for several years where I put 2 tomato plants fairly close to each other, about maybe 3 feet away, 2.5 feet, and I put the supports around them in such a way that it keeps the tomatoes off the ground, so you don't have your plants flopping, because tomatoes are basically a vine. So I've got my holes dug here. I did have to remove some clay from this hole, which is kind of surprising. So what I'm going to do is add a handful of lime and then to each of the holes, and I have this nice pile of compost, spent mushroom compost that I picked up from the Mulch King out in Goochland, and I've also just been spreading it in this garden for years as well. I'm going to put the take the plants out and put them out of the pots and put them in the holes, and then mix in compost and soil. That's my plan. So I'm going to plant this 4th of July in this hole right here. 4th of July is a Burpee product. They produce lots of golf ball sized tomatoes. This one is called a Silvery Fir Tree, and look, it even has tomatoes on it already. I bought this from Strange's, and it's a new one. I've never tried it before. Every year I like to try something different, so I think I'm actually going to have to make my hole a little bit bigger because it's going to go right there. Okay, now tomatoes are not like trees. When you plant them, you can actually plant them deeper than they were before because they're a vine. I'm going to mound up a lot of soil on that one, but and compost. So mound up soil and compost. The better your soil, the better your tomatoes will taste, the better they'll grow. So lots of compost. Okay, before I took the tomato plants out of the container that it was in, I watered them pretty good so that they come out easier if you water them first. And now I've just watered these. These look good. I'll keep an eye on them to make sure that they're all happy. I planted these 2 tomato plants the other day, and I like to put the cages around the tomatoes without the stakes. I've pulled those stakes off, and then I'm going to use tent pegs to pound them down to help support the tomato. That's one part of the support system that I have. I went ahead and put the cage upside down because the plant was already pretty big when I put it in, and thought I would have a hard time getting it over this opening. I do have better tomato cages, but anyway, I keep using them for years. So the first thing I need to do before I can use the pegs to peg them down is, you'll notice that these are not level. So I'm going to use my rake, and this one, while it does seem to have good contact on the soil, I don't know if you can tell, it's extremely, it's leaning over pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is use a rake. You can use whatever your hands, whatever you want to use, but I'm going to try and make the soil level. And it has just rained, so it's going to be really easy to get the tent pegs in, but I want to move this over, pull up some soil so that maybe scoop a little out here, but move it over so that my tomato cage will stand up straight, so that as the tomato plant grows, and some of these plants get huge, you have good soil, good sun, they're really gonna produce for you. They'll get nice and big. So anyway, that's my plan. Check the seed. Alright, that looks a lot better than it did before. So I just use these tent pegs. You can buy them at a pretty good price at a sporting goods store, or even a place like Target or Walmart. And the idea is just to, it's a good idea to put these in early enough so that you don't damage the root system that's growing. And I just planted these a couple of days ago. So the roots may have spread out some, but I don't think this is going to damage them in the least. And so the little hook here is going to hook onto the metal and hold it down. When it dries, when it gets drier out here, it holds it down pretty good. And then I'm going to do the same thing to my other tomato plant. And I actually have like, what's this called? It doesn't seem real firm right now. But get it knocked down good. I'm going to see if I can plant my other 4 tomato plants today. Nice when you have good pliable soil, but it does make it a little bit more difficult for the pegs to stick. Okay, so I've got these step-in fence posts. Your boots. Yeah, this one's going down. In Virginia, we have lots of clay, and the deeper you go, I think you can run into rocks and things that have been down there for years. So I might have to move this one because I keep jumping and nothing's happening. The idea is to enclose the 2 tomato plants and their cages with these step-in fence posts, and then I'm going to put a support system around the outside using what are called trifold tomato cages. Wow, there's something down there. Okay, have a tough time on this one. I think I'm going to use the shovel. Here. Now I'm down on the clay. Maybe what I need to do is water the hole. So I get some water out here and just water the hole, and that way, like I say, even though it rains, I'm going to water this hole, and then I'm going to work on the others. Usually I do all of them together, but for this video I really only need to show you how to do 2 tomato plants, and then I can do my others later on. Put some water in here. Welcome to Virginia. Lots of clay. Alright. Now I'm going to go back to that other hole. Try and get it to go in some. There we go, that was a good one. There we go. Very good. Okay, that's nice and solid. So, go ahead and fill it back in. Pull the rocks out. There we go. That's good. Excellent. This one looks pretty deep. But you can't even see the step on things anymore. There they are. Gardening later. It's not quite like a pogo stick. There we go. That's nice and deep. So, as you can see, I have the 2 tomato plants that I planted the other day, and I've put a cage around them, and I put the tent pegs. You can see those yellow tent pegs there to hold the cage in place. It's a little bit loose. I'll get in there and tamp them down better. So I did that with both of them. And then I have 4 step-in fence posts. Get at Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever. And then you can put them around so that it'll be able to get the trifold cages around. It'll make excellent support and make it so much easier to pick. Here's my tomato system. I keep 2 tomatoes spaced about a yard apart and put them in nice cages. See those nice cages there? And then I put these trifold cages. I open up the trifold cages. I don't have them both up yet. Well, I do. I have 2. So as the tomato plant gets bigger, and they're encased with these step-in fence posts right here. You can see them. There's 4 of them. And the tomato plants will get bigger and bigger, and they get huge. And then they'll be able to have all the support they need, so we keep the fruit off of the ground and in my basket. Yeah, that's the plan. These are Juliet tomatoes. I love them. And here is the one I cheated and I bought, the silver fir tree tomato plant. It seems kind of small for those tomatoes on there, but whatever. Never grown them before, worth a try. And here's my 4th of July plants. And again, these are together. They've got the 4 fence posts and got the trifold cage around it. And we'll see how it works. And they're in their individual cages too. These ones just have the round cages. Those square cages cost a lot of money. I don't have enough of those yet. And got some basil growing in there too. I got the water system and everything down. I got the cardboard down on top of that, and then plants are just going great. I've got little tomatoes on all of them, and things are looking good. This is the way I do my system. Been doing this, or a variation of it, for many years now, and enjoying every year of it. But you can see my garden paths, regular mulch would probably look better, or even just plain dirt would look great if it didn't get all muddy and or dry and cracked or full of weeds. Alright, this is an update on my system of growing tomatoes. I have been using a system where I put the 2 tomato plants basically fairly close to each other, maybe 3 feet away. And like these are 2 Juliet tomatoes here. I love Juliets. If there was only one type I could grow, I would grow these because they taste good, and they produce so many, and then you can also pull them off before the frost. In October, you're getting ready for that frost. It'll kill your tomato plants, and even green ones like these. Of course, this is July the 3rd, so we're a long way off from that. But you could pull them off and put them on a box with a piece of newspaper, and they would actually turn red, and you could eat them all through the winter. You have to pull off quite a few to eat them all through the winter, but that's what I do. But anyway, so here's my system. I've got these 2 plants together, and then I have the fence posts, 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of at the corners of the tomato plants. And this is really a note for myself that I put the fence post too close for Juliets, because Juliets, not only do they produce a lot of tomatoes, they produce a lot of foliage. This is just 2 plants, and the plants are overflowing. As you can see, they're coming out. They're too difficult to stuff in. You can see they're coming out on this end. And what I wish I had done is not put the fence posts so close. They look like they're maybe 2 feet apart here, and maybe on the other side just about the same, or maybe a little bit bigger. But at any rate, they got squeezed in so much that the tomato plants are coming out. And you see here they are, they're just bursting out. And I think it'd be easier if I had put them further apart, so that would mean that the trifold cages would be further away from the big square cages, tomato cages that they're in. So that would have given me like a little more support because they're coming out. And this is where they are in the front. And so that's a note to myself, or a note if you're going to try this system. Maybe put those posts further away if you try plants that grow a lot of foliage and a lot of tomatoes. This is a tomato plant that just has the regular tomato cage, doesn't have any extra structures. So it has this cage right here, and it's in a pot, so that's one reason I didn't put the extra structure around it. As you look, you can see the tomato plants get so heavy. This is one reason. You can see where this branch has just broken over, and the one behind it as well. And that is one reason that it is a good idea to have more structure than just the tomato cage, because the tomato plants are just so heavy, top heavy. So this is like August the 8th, 2013 in Central Virginia, and this is one of my tomato plants. Now when I'm going to look back over at my tomato system, you can see that well, we've had a lot of rain. Turn this way. We've had a lot of rain, and so the tomatoes plants are not as high as they usually are, because the vines themselves, and tomatoes are actually considered to be a vine, are flopping or hanging down, just like that one I just showed you. That they, instead of standing up real high, that it's really good to have this extra support, because it does cut down on breaking the vines. And these are relatively easy to pick from. So these are my Juliet tomatoes, these two here.